Got the headphones. Cool.
I am in the office attending a meeting.
You couldn't escape?
No, why would I?
Oh gosh.
Hey, Gibson, have you used On24 at all?
No, I know like Optimizely uses that as a big platform. I haven't used it yet.
I did a webinar with it. It was pretty interesting.
Yeah, the headphones. Cool.
I am in the office attending a meeting.
You couldn't escape?
No, why would I?
Oh gosh. Well, the funny thing about these platforms is,
Hey, Gibson, have you used On24 at all?
No, I know like Optimizely uses that as a big platform.
There we go. Oh, echo. That was a lot of screen.
That was a lot of echo.
I was like, where's that sound coming from?
Exactly. I thought I answered that question already.
That's the live stream. I didn't know it was playing out loud. Okay, cool. Why don't we throw up the slides, Gibson, and that way.
I'll throw up the slides. Am I sharing, Mark?
You are sharing, yes.
Oh, and I'm not where I wanted to be, so I'm just going to back up.
No worries.
Boop, 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 boop. This is how the pros do it. Very quickly.
Here we go.
That's the first slide. Cool.
Let me add some more people. I'm going to keep on, I'm probably going to be talking, adding.
Perfect. Well, if you want, I can hit the admit button too, if that's helpful to you.
Yeah, go ahead and do that while I'm.
Okay. I'm going to go crazy. I'm letting in Caroline Lee right now. Hello, Caroline.
Hi, Caroline.
Cool. Okay, everybody, let's mute down. We're starting this show. Thank you so much for coming today. And if this is the place, Netflix's 2020 product strategy given by Gibson Biddle, who is the former VP of product at Netflix. I had a wrong slide there once. I got corrected. And so we're really excited to have Gibson Biddle here today. And you're going to hear some really amazing stuff. Actually, I hadn't heard his talk about this yet, so it's going to be new to me too. Next slide.
I'm trying, Mark. I'm doing my best. I'm admitting, I'm hitting slides.
So this is where we're going to be doing tonight. I'm going to do some intros like normal. If you've been to a ProductTank here in Austin before, you know this spiel. At about 5:45, Gibson's going to talk and do Q&A. We're going to wrap up around 6:45-ish, and but don't leave because we're going to do breakout rooms to do networking in little smaller rooms where you can go and chat with people. So definitely don't just disappear. Go ahead and hit next. So thanks to our sponsors, ProductTank. I happen to be the founder of ProductTank, so a little weird nepotism here going on. But ProductTank, you guys probably know about it. If you don't, now you do. You can search for a job. We're product focused, so you see all the roles there. You can search, you can hire people, you can prepare for interviews, you can network by finding events near you. And you can actually go to our events with this Product Job Club. It's a meetup we have, check it out. And we have all these videos, including this video you're going to see is going to be on our YouTube channel. And you can see all the digital library events of all the things we do. And next slide. We're very excited to be launching a coaching and mentorship platform coming in November. Yes, I'm aware in September I said it was coming, but actually our whole engineering team got COVID. So things happen, yeah. So, but it's gonna be a coaching marketplace, hopefully launching in November. It's for mentors and coaches, so you can actually be a coach or a mentor. You can sign up, you can do it for free or you can do it for paid. And all the cool, widgets and things that you would expect, integrations with your calendars, people can sign up and so on and so forth. If you're looking for a coach and a mentor, guys, I got to say this is the most important thing you could probably do in your career is to get a mentor. And so you can search through all the coaches and mentors. And we already have people signing up from Facebook, Google, so on, but normal people like me. You can find a time that works for you and a mentor that works for you and book it. And so we're starting off with resume reviews, portfolio reviews, career coaching. Look forward to the launch. It's coming soon. You can sign up to be notified at producthire.com/coaching. Next. The next event. So this space might be familiar to you. The next Product Hire Job Club event is actually November 4th, and it's Hacking Your Product Career, and our very own Gibson Biddle is going to be speaking there. We really are getting everything we can out of this guy. So we're really excited about this talk, and that'll be next week, and Product Hire sponsoring that, but also ProductTank Austin. We're actually coming together and General Assembly. So you can go ahead and sign up for that, and that's next week. Talking about hacking your product career, and this is really an amazing talk, and I think you'll really enjoy it. Next screen. And so let's talk about ProductTank. Next screen. So 10 years ago, product was pretty lonely. Next screen. But ProductTank was birthed, and really ProductTank exists because we want to work together with other product people, figure out what their struggles are, share our struggles, and collaborate and learn from one another. Next screen.
I'm admitting people.
Oh, there you go. No worries. So ProductTank in 10 years has gone from, I guess, 0 to over 200,000 members in over 200 cities. And I'm proud to have started it in a couple of those cities, including Austin. And so you can check out all the cities. If you're visiting a city, check out ProductTank and see if there's mindtheproduct.com/ProductTank to see if there's an event going on near you. Of course, this is COVID. You can actually remote into all these different talks. So I know Gibson has done several talks of these, and there's a lot of other people doing talks all over the world. And it's really a great opportunity even now because it's all on video. Next. And so let's talk about the Austin branch. So this is Austin, Texas. And next. And so the first thing you should know, we have a Slack community. So if you haven't already joined our Slack community for Austin, for product people, go to productinaustin.com, and that'll show you how to invite yourself. Go ahead and the next slide. On that Slack community, we post jobs from Product Hired. You can post them there, and they're automatically distributed to all these different channels. So we have a channel for junior, mid-level, senior, management, and remote. Every day, jobs are posted. We also have a networking channel called Job Club, where you can go and you can talk to other people, see what they're doing, ask interview questions that you're wondering how to answer. It's a great channel. And of course, we have a meetup Product Hire Job Club that is focused on product job events. And we have a lot of great speakers like Gibson. Next. So during this talk, we're getting ready to have Gibson talk. And during this talk, he's going to be using a thing called Slido. He'll talk more about it, but you might want to take this opportunity to scan this link here with your phone or whatever device. He'll be giving it again very soon, so don't freak out if you don't get it. So go ahead and next slide. So guys, it is an honor and a pleasure for me to introduce Gibson Biddle. He spoke here in Austin, I think 2 years ago, almost exactly to the day. And it was an amazing experience to just hear his wisdom and his experience at not only Netflix, but the other companies he's worked at. Netflix is the big name, but I've heard a lot of stories that he's talked about in other companies, and they're all very fascinating and interesting. He's been very avid in working with the product community. He started the Product Leadership Conference Summit, and that's a great thing that I've attended. And just a wealth of information. He advises now and speaks a lot. I've never seen someone speak so much, and that's why we're so honored to be able to get him, even virtually. It's a big honor. So Gibson, thank you so much. I'll let you take over from here, and I'll start admitting people.
Cool. Thanks, Mark. No, that was a lot of fun. Yeah, I was admitting people, advancing slides. It's a lot of work, Mark. I'm glad I'm not the organizer. Welcome, everybody. My name's Gib. Thanks for the neat welcome, and thanks for doing everything you do, Mark, to bring the community together. Yeah, I use Slido a lot. It's my way of understanding what's going on out there. I can tell. Oh yeah, and because so many of you are in Austin, put the name of your neighborhood. I want to know where the cool kids live in Austin, or whatever the town is, or whatever lake. But I just like to know where folks are coming from. I happen to be in Boston, but I'm usually in. Yeah, I just misspelled Boston. Go figure. Boston. But I'm usually in Burlingame, a little south. I can see folks using the chat as well. Today, we'll be doing some juicy cases. I'll be using Slido to let you answer the polls and questions in word clouds. And Mark and I will be looking at the chat as well. And then you'll also notice that Slido lets you ask questions. I'll answer them. But you can upvote them, etc. So Mark, it is a pretty good geographic diversity. I see folks from, I saw the Boulder, Philly. I see some Hoboken, folks from all over the world, which is fun. This is since COVID, since my lockdown on March 12th. This is like my 80th talk. So yes, I'm prolific. So anyway, it's nice to see you, and it looks like Slido's working well. So thank you. You got the memo that if you look down at your device now, you can ask questions, upvote them. I love the questions in Slido because it helps me understand what I failed to communicate and what's interesting to you. But we'll have some time at the end to answer questions for you. So I'm here today to talk about Netflix's 2020 product strategy. And it's about taking these tools, models, and frameworks from product strategy and applying them to a product that I assume that most of you are using today, and I hope most of you like. You don't have to go crazy taking notes or taking photos of screen. I've already put the PDF at the top of my little baby website for you, and Mark will be dropping all the links at the end in the chat for you as well. So just, relax. So I just want to tell you a little bit about my early career. The first successful product I ever built was Sesame Street Elmo's Preschool. It was for a startup that I was a co-founder of called Creative Wonders. And I sold that company to this dude. This is Kevin O'Leary, Mr. Wonderful of Shark Tank. He was the CEO of the Learning Company. And I'm guessing a lot of you recognize him. He's a Canadian. You're going to let Leo in from the room, Mark? Anyways, sold the Creative Wonders to the Learning Company and then helped the Learning Company grow. This is like Reader Rabbit and Clue Finders and lots of kids software. It was actually the biggest kids software company in the world. And we sold it to Mattel at the time. We sold it for $4 billion, which sounds awesome. It was a big deal at that time. This is how Kevin made his money. But the bad thing that happened was about a year later, Mattel threw the Learning Company back out the door, and they took this huge write-off. So they wrote it down by $3.6 billion. And for me, the reflection was that I had failed to build hard-to-copy advantage. At that point in time, lots of software creators were building kids-branded software, which is what I was doing. And so the real reflection for me is I had failed to build this long-term, durable, hard-to-copy advantage. So that was sort of the first half of my career. The second half of the career, this is Reed Hastings. He's the CEO of Netflix. This is him in 2005. Netflix, for those that don't know, started as a DVD by mail company. And I interviewed with him for the VP of product role. And he really only asked me two questions. He said, "Hey, Gib, can you delight customers?" And I said, "Yeah, I built Elmo's Preschool." And luckily his kids had played it and loved it. And then the second question he asked was, "Can you do consumer science?" And luckily I had asked him earlier what he hoped his legacy would be. And it wasn't, this is like, at the time, Netflix had 1 million members. It wasn't to create a worldwide streaming company or original content. He basically said, "I want to create the system of consumer science." And he was sort of geeky and explained Steve Jobs has this innate sense of taste and fashion, et cetera. I just don't have that. But I'm hoping we can create the system where we can learn through experimentation. And that was his notion of consumer science. And I listened to him and I just said, yes, I can do that. I wasn't confident, but it turns out I was right. So I got the job. Mark told you briefly about my career. I actually started Electronic Arts, and then you can see the kids software days with Creative Wonders and the Learning Company, Mattel. I joined Netflix in 2005. And then in 2010, I went on to my next startup, which is Chegg, which came first, the chicken or the egg. It's a textbook rental and a homework help company, something called Chegg Study. And both of those have done very well in an era of COVID when everybody's online. Last 5 years, I'm really focused on helping people to become better product leaders. So this talk has got 3 chapters. The first, I'm going to talk about some frameworks. And then the second chapter, I'm going to apply them. I'm going to pretend that I'm the head of product. I'm back at Netflix. And then the third chapter, we're going to do these 2 juicy cases. And I'm going to put you in a position where you're all the head of product for the day and ask, what would you do? And really what I'm trying to share with you is how to think about how strategy applies to your decision-making, every day. So I've got a couple of frameworks for you. Everything cool, Mark?
Everything's going great.
Okay. These frameworks, I want to begin with talking about what I mean by strategy. And Hamilton Helmer, he's a professor of economics of all things at Stanford. But his definition is it's a route to continuing power in a significant market. Like, I want you to think for a minute. Imagine it's 400 BC and you're in the Far East, you're in China, and you've discovered all these jewels and spices, and you're trying to figure out how to get them back to London, maybe via the Mediterranean, maybe not, who knows? And now you're an explorer, you're engaged in this discovery of a path. This image in the background is the Silk Road, and the Silk Road became this route of continuing power that helped build a significant market. And this place right here is actually protected by the Great Wall of China. And so I want you to be thinking about strategy as this process of discovery. And why do I focus on strategy? I actually focus on 3 things. One is culture, and that helps people develop great judgment. The second is this notion of strategy. That's what I'm going to be talking about today. And the third is the notion of consumer science. But the reason I focus on strategy is to help product leaders do the hardest thing, which is to communicate an inspired vision of the future. That's hard to do. And the second is I find strategies really helpful at blending discipline and chaos. And you need chaos. If you're trying to invent stuff, that the invention comes from the unknown. So you're trying to illuminate that, and strategy helps to illuminate without squeezing the life out of the chaos. And strategy is all about forming hypotheses to delight customers in these hard to copy, margin enhancing ways. And margin enhancing is just a fancy way to say make money. And then it facilitates prioritization. So as product leaders, we can build anything. We just can't build everything. So imagine the 100 things that you want to build. Strategy helps you to prioritize maybe the 10 that are most important. Looking for that intersection of delight, hard to copy, and margin. And the last is you can communicate a plan. As companies grow up, people start asking like, how the heck does all this stuff fit together? And strategy can do that. So I'm just going to share very lightly 3 different frameworks. I'll go a little more heavily into the DHM in this upfront section. I just want you to be able to recognize the models when I do the mock 2020 product strategy. So this first one, I call it GLEE, and it's helping companies to think about 3 stages of growth. The first is, what is the initial thing you're going to get big on? Hint, for Netflix, that was getting big on DVDs. But then to think about the second phase of growth. And these phases are like 3 to 5 years out. And once you lead that second chapter, which for Netflix was streaming, what is the wave after that? And Netflix, that happened to be international. And then the GEM model, it really stands for just how do you simply prioritize 3 factors of growth, engagement, and monetization. And when I say engagement, what I mean, it's really a proxy for product quality. How engaging is your product? How good is your product? And then monetization is all about economic efficiency. Do you create profits that you can reinvest in the product to make it better? And then I've already lightly introduced the DHM model. It's all about delighting in hard to copy, margin enhancing ways. So the GLEE model is really, what I'm trying to do is force people to think long-term, think out 10 or 15 or 20 years to help develop this long-term product vision. The GEM model facilitates cross-functional alignment. Think about the fights that marketing has with product, with technology, with sales. And it's this model that helps everybody to look at the world in the same way for a brief moment in time. And then DHM helps form these hypotheses to compete in the long term. So I just want to go a little heavier into the DHM framework, because frankly, it defines what I think is the product leader's job. Your job is to delight customers in hard to copy, margin enhancing ways. That's the job. And delight, I'm assuming that most of you are Netflix members. And think about the things that delight you about the service. It took us years and years and years to figure out all these things. But I'm guessing the things that you like about Netflix are on this list. And then in terms of margin enhancement, one of the big innovations at Netflix was it actually started as a la carte. You would rent a disc for $4. It would show up like 5 days later in the mail, really a sucky service. And then the company bet its life on an all-you-can-eat subscription. And that's what it is today. And you may have noticed that Netflix has been experimenting with its price and plans. Some of you, and you probably just heard today, they increased the prices. So the premium plan that has multiple streams and ultra high def, I think that's going to cost $18. And the middle of the road plan is going to be 16, and the starter plan with just one stream is like $12. But they've been experimenting with what are these plans forever. In India, for instance, you can get a $5 a month mobile only plan. And so these are the ways that Netflix has been working out the business. But one thing that's not apparent to everybody is how much economic efficiency Netflix has. I call this right-sizing original content investment. So in the chat, I'm curious how many folks out there have watched Stranger Things? So just say me or yes or thumbs up or whatever, just so I get a sense. Okay, no's are helpful too, but I'm seeing a flurry of yes. That's great. So Netflix, it's got data today from 200 million customers, and it's able to make guesses about, I appreciate that you like it, they make these guesses about how many people will watch their stuff. And they guessed that 100 million people would watch Stranger Things, and they were right. And because of that, they were comfortable making a $500 million investment. And then on the other hand, let me know a yes or a no for BoJack Horseman, because right now I'm revealing my quirky tastes, because this is a show I love. And I'm guessing about 80% are going to say no. And I've got Cheryl, who I hope you love it, because I see the yep with an exclamation. In this case, Netflix guessed that 20 million people would watch it. Based on that, they were willing to make a 100 million investment. Or I'm into Everest climbing documentaries. 1 million will watch it. They invest $5 million. And this is the concept of right sizing. And this is really where a lot of the economic efficiency comes from. So now what I want you to think about is what makes Netflix hard to copy? So if I gave you $500 million tomorrow to start a company to compete with Netflix, what would be hard about doing that? And I'd love it if you would use Slido right now to answer that question. And if you haven't used it yet, I'm just holding up my phone as though I'm taking a photo of the QR using my camera app, and a link magically popped up. And now I can answer the question. Mark, what comes to mind for you when you think about what makes Netflix hard to copy?
I think it's the size. It's the there's nothing even similar with the library of content, original content that I haven't already seen. Yeah.
And are any of the responses here surprising you? Keep going. I love seeing the word clouds get built. I love, like, personalization is a great example of a unique technology that is very hard to copy. Anything surprising you there, Mark?
Original content, including international series, user base. That's interesting. I wonder what they mean by that.
Yeah, it's related to what you said. I'll pick it up. I'm actually seeing everything I'm looking for. So I see a lot of original content, and then I was delighted when I saw brand growing, because a lot of product leaders will get to that slowly. But you all trust Netflix with your credit card every month. I saw a couple other ideas, and here's, and someone we could debate, like the people. I mean, this is specific. What about the product is hard? And people often bring up the culture, which is really an interesting one. But for me, there's really four main things at work here. The first is the brand. And Netflix, what we're trying to build the brand promise, if you will, is to build this idea where movie enjoyment is made easy. And we would never say that to a customer, but we're trying to build a product that embodied that. And then I saw personalization. There was also other unique technology. And then there is a network effect. We actually tried to build one in the early days with friends. We tried to create a network of friends that you could connect with and get good ideas, which failed. But later, the device ecosystem, the idea that every device in the world that's got a screen is magically pre-wired to let you watch. That's a huge network effect. And then I saw original content. The way I think about original content in this context is Netflix, because it's amortizing its spending on content against 200 million members, it can afford to spend $20 billion in content, where poor Amazon can only spend $8 billion. And a combination of Disney and Hulu is spending like $7 billion. And this is the idea of an economy of scale. So these are four very hard to copy things about Netflix that put them in really good stead today, and even in an increasingly competitive range. So this idea of delight, hard to copy, and margin, I'm always searching for these high-level theories, hypotheses, these strategies on the left that, with luck, will do all three. So this is over like 20 years. These are all the high-level theories and hypotheses. Green is good. But for instance, if you look down at red, you see social. That was the experimentation with the Friends network. That was a failure. But there you can see original content. It delights, it's hard to copy, and it helps improve the business. And the yellow, and if you look way at the bottom, Netflix has been experimenting with interactive stories. They don't know yet if that will delight. And because of that, they don't know yet if it's hard to copy or if it's margin enhancing. But this is the way I think about strategy. You're searching for those ideas that delight, that are hard to copy, and help improve the business. And notice that Netflix only got it right on this list like a third of the time. And that is sufficient. And that's the power of this model. If you're intrigued, I went very quickly, but at the end, Mark will drop a link. I wrote a series, How to Define Your Product Strategy, on Medium. It's free. Nothing bad will happen if you go there. All right, so now what I'm going to do is apply some of these ideas, and I'm going to go kind of in and out of character where I'm back. I've rejoined Netflix, and I'm at an all-hands meeting at the beginning of 2020, and I'm nicely letting everybody know how to think about the product strategy. So hello, thanks for having me back. As a reminder, this is the positioning of the product. This is the product we set out to build. Netflix, a movie subscription service that delivers fast, easy entertainment in a friendly, straightforward way. This is the positioning, and this is the brand promise. Our job is to deliver a product where movie enjoyment is made easy. And if you recall, the original product vision, it's been playing out well. At the beginning, we said we were going to get big on DVD, and we did that. And then at some point, this is January of 2007, we began to experiment with streaming. And at a point where Netflix is indeed lead streaming. And then because you can never really stop, you have to keep finding that next big wave. We went on, once we were all digital, we were able to expand worldwide. And then most of you might recognize that today, Netflix is heavy in a period of original content. It got 190 nominations for the Emmys. Like, it's unbelievable that a punk DVD company could now be a leader in original content. And then because you always have to be thinking about what's next when you're engaged in inventing the future, one of the hypotheses for the future, the idea is this will be important 5 or 10 years from now, is interactive stories. And some of you may have missed it because you don't have young kids, but the experimentation began with Puss in Book. This is an interactive stories where the kids drive. Or of course, Captain Underpants, Epic Choice-O-Rama. Who couldn't love that? For the grown-ups, Black Mirror's Bandersnatch, this is where you drive the story. And then you may have noticed that recently we've shipped The Unbreakable Kimmy Schmidt in an interactive format where you help Kimmy to decide if she should make out or plan the wedding. And this is hypothesis for the next stage, 5 to 10 years out of where Netflix is going. Within product, the way we think about our job is defined by this one metric. Our high-level engagement metric is monthly retention. So at the start, 10% of our members would cancel at startup. 2005, about 5% canceled every month. And today, only 2% cancel each month. And one of those points is because people don't have money in their account. And the other is because it's summer and they shouldn't be rotting their brains out binge watching. But this is how we define the product quality of the product and relentlessly work to make it better. And so when I rejoined the company in January, I sat down with my finance partner, the content partner, marketing, tech, and said, hey, how do we prioritize these three forces: growth, engagement, and monetization? And after some arm wrestling, we all agreed that we were going to put growth first, continue with the goal of having 20% member growth. Monetization, this is how we measure our sort of economic efficiency. And the key metric there is lifetime value. For perspective, in 2005, the lifetime value of a customer was $100. Today, it's $290, largely because of those improvements in retention. And then it saddens me that engagement is in third priority, because that's really the focus of the product team. But the reason is because a monthly retention where only 2% cancel each month is pretty darn good. The other thing that's going on is we're putting a little bit more focus on monetization so we can deliver more profits so that we can invest more in original content, which is really what customers want. And you may have noticed the price increase today. So I talk about these high-level product strategies of trying to find the intersection of delight, hard to copy, and margin. On the left are the four key ideas, and there's really 3 or 4 others. But I just want to outline some of these high-level strategies. So if you look down the left, you see the phrase watching experience. The theory is if you can deliver an even better watching experience, over time, that's one of the ways to improve retention. So if you look to the right, you see some sample projects. We keep trying to make the quality of both the audio and the video better and better. That's Ultra HD. We're contemplating letting our members slow down and speed up their movies on mobile devices, or this concept of Netflix Party, where you can share, watch a movie together, even if you're all over the world. And so much of the content from around the world are stories that go from one country to the other. We're trying to get great at lip syncing it, so you can't even tell it was the title was created in a country other than your own. So I just shared with you the watching experience and the key projects or tactics on the right. And now notice in the middle, there's a proxy metric. Retention is so hard to move that you need a proxy metric that you can measure to validate whether the strategy is working or not. In this case, watching experience. And the proxy metric is percentage of customers who watch at least 40 hours a month. Today at Netflix, about 50% of the members watch at least 40 hours a month. And the idea is if you can drive that proxy up to 60 or 7 through this better watching experience, in the long term, you should be able to improve retention. I call this the SMT lockup: strategy, metric, and tactic. And then, of course, here's the roadmap. And all I've done is taken the projects that you saw before and mapped them out over time. So for instance, again, you can look at watching experience. You can see this quarter, we're thinking about launching a notion called custom playback speed. In the next quarter, another project called Netflix Party. But you can see how these strategies, you can see how they come to life over time. Now, when I share this roadmap with the CEO or investor, board member, I say, hey, we have a high level of, I know that Disney started to watch Party. We'll get into that later. The key thing here, excuse me, is what is the key? Oh, yeah. Q4, very confident about these projects. But frankly, we're going to learn so much in this quarter that some of these projects and tactics are going to change. And that's, so don't view this as a commitment, but I'm just trying to help everybody understand how everything fits together over time. And with that, I'll say thank you. I'm looking forward to debating the value of Netflix Party and the wisdom of Disney or not. So anyways, in this mock, I'll say thank you. So now we have these two juicy cases. And I'm going to give you a little bit of data. You guys can ask questions. But the key thing is to pretend you're the product leader at Netflix today. And what would you choose to do? So some folks out there have been to business school or law school. With cases, I give a little bit of information. You're allowed to ask questions, but I want you to ask the questions that you have and get enough data so that you can decide what you think is best to form your opinion. And I'm hoping that we'll see a little bit of difference of opinion. So the first one is indeed this notion of Netflix Party. And I want to give you a little bit of sense, a little bit of background about what's going on here. So there is a Chrome extension called Netflix Party. About 8 engineers on Patreon built it. Netflix doesn't care that they called it Netflix Party. Like, it's sort of interesting for them to see as a proof of concept. And the way that this Chrome extension, you download it, you plug it in. If you're a Netflix member, you can watch with other Netflix members all around the world. And the thinking is during a period of COVID, where we're all a little tired of our families and we're a little bit tired of our workmates, now you can finally connect with other people all over the world. And the way that it works is that you're watching together and you can chat and you can heckle and you can use your emojis. 6 months or a year from now, you might be able to talk to each other while you're watching the movie together. And this is the idea of Netflix Party. And the way it works is with the Patreon Chrome extension, you download it, you open up a video, you create your party, and then you have this shared experience together. So Tom Willard is the product leader, and the engineering team comes to him and says, this is a freaking awesome idea. We should, it's a little wonky with the Patreon Chrome extension. We should execute it ourselves and make it, easy, all those kinds of things. And so Tom does a little bit of digging in the dirt. So I want to give you a little bit of history about Netflix social, the consumer insight here. So I've already told you that one of the social experiments that we launched in 2005, we actually killed in 2009. And the proxy metric for that was the percentage of customers that connected with at least one friend within Netflix. And we got that metric up to 5%. And if you're trying to improve retention, you need to get something like 20% of your members engaged in a feature. So Netflix is very disciplined. We killed it. And we call it scraping the barnacles. If you're trying to create a simple, easy experience, you got to get rid of all these crufty things that get in the way, these little 5%ers. So we killed it. Xbox was actually the first partner on a TV. They knew their market and they say, we should do this party mode where everybody can watch at the same time and heckle, just this feature. And I said, no, we shouldn't. And of course, they were bigger than us and they executed. But I said, hey, if you get beyond 5% usage, I'll fall over. And 3 years later, they were still at 5% usage. So we killed it. And then go forward, Netflix is expanding international. They can't spend $50 million on marketing each country. So they did work to build instrumented word of mouth. So if you were a member and you just loved watching Ozark, you could tell a friend. And through email and chat and Facebook and Twitter and WhatsApp, this message would automatically get sent to your friends with the link. And that was a way to build instrumented virality, and they would join the service. And guess what? Yet again, it was hardly used. So I want to give you the main insight about Netflix and social. The first is your friends have really sucky movie tastes. Okay, it's just true. And we thought we could algorithmic get around this. And then the second problem with movies is you have lots of guilty pleasures. stuff that you're embarrassed about, the fact that you were binge watching Cake Boss, for 18 hours last week. So you don't want everybody to know what you're watching. I want to hear everybody's, put it in chat, your favorite guilty pleasures, the stuff that you're a little embarrassed. Of course, it's not anonymous. All right, so here's the issue today. The engineers come and they've got more data. Oh my God. Those are not guilty pleasures. Those are all pretty darn good. I'm not embarrassed by any of that. And the West Wing is really good. Okay, so Netflix Party grew from 500,000 to 1 million. This is this Chrome extension in the last 60 days. This is an amazing piece of data, the proof of concept. And if you go to the Google Play Store, you'll notice there's been 10 million downloads of this idea. And the engineers are saying, hey, we should do this. This is amazing. And they're saying they can launch it on the devices that we're using today next month, and they'll be on all platforms by the end of the year. And a couple of things. The reason that Netflix is able to execute this so quickly is because of their application programming interfaces. It's actually hard for most other companies to do this kind of thing. So I would argue that it's actually a hard to copy feature. And the question I'm putting to you right now is, will this delight in hard to copy, margin enhancing ways? And the key thing, the delight, will it get used enough so that either people are raving about it and that's bringing new members into the fold, or a substantial amount of people use it, and something like 20%, and now because they love it, they won't quit the service, and retention will go from only 2% canceling every month to maybe 1.9%, which is a huge difference. Put another way, should Netflix try social again? By the way, Netflix failed. We experimented with original content in 2008, 2009 with Red Envelope Studios. It failed. But then by 2013 with House of Cards, it worked. So, they're willing to experiment. All right. Do you guys have questions? I'm looking at the chat. Mark's looking at the chat too. Do you have any questions that'll help you decide whether you should launch this or not? That's the question. Mark, do you have any questions about this?
Well, actually, one thing on this is I was a fan of the Xbox, I'll just tell you.
Yeah.
And one of the reasons is because I was already there multiplaying with my friends.
Yeah.
And we were already chatting. This was just one that worked for me. But I don't know if it would work on TV. And so I was wondering, what's the breakup between mobile or items that have maybe video cameras that people can see you personally versus devices that don't, like most televisions? Yeah,
I think when you launch this, you're going to keep it simple. So you're not going to worry about seeing each other, talking to each other at launch. But make it so that you can chat and heckle and emoji and all the kinds of stuff like that. So you're just going to launch simply. Tell me what you loved about Xbox Party, Mark. What did you love about it?
So we had the thing called, Connect, Xbox Connect, right? And, we didn't have video of us, but we had avatars, and I could actually see the avatars move, right?
Yeah.
As we watched. And that was really, it was gimmicky, but I actually loved watching it because it synced at the same time. We would laugh, you could hear the audio. You can also do, like, I think if I remember correctly, there was some form of emojis or something like that.
Yep.
But just getting with my friends and not getting smeared on Halo by them, I could just watch a movie and have time with them without being shot. Was
Sure.
what I enjoyed.
Okay,
But,
so Vic, Netflix, about 70% of the watching is on the TV. And the engineers are saying they'll get this feature to the TV pretty soon. And then the other question I see from David is, how persistent is this growth in the Netflix Party Chrome extension? And it's very persistent, very consistent. It's growing like a weed. Okay. So I'm answering your questions. Okay, well, I'm going to put it out there for collective wisdom, and I want to see what you all think. Okay. So you're the product leader at Netflix. Do you launch this feature? Do you say yes to the engineers who are dying for this? Or are there some reasons that you might choose not to do it? a horse race. It's kind of fun to watch. Yeah, okay, I see Ollie's point, which is, I assume, Ollie, you're a proponent of this idea. The times have changed, and it's a big community to work with, which is true. And Mark now has voted no. That's fascinating. Yeah, you guys are curious how much time and energy? Assume it's pretty easy to build. Yeah, that's what you're hearing. That's another theory. This might be even more engaging than interactive stories. That's an interesting idea. Okay, cool. Well, let me tell you, so I see about 60% are saying yes and 40% are saying no. It's not radically different from what I've seen in the past. So I'll tell you what they chose to do. They chose not to launch. And I just want to give you a little bit more of the thinking in this case. So the first is, we are not normal people. By definition, all of us who are on this webinar are using Google Slides and Slido and Zoom. We are just not normal people, okay? So occasionally you have to check your instinct. This is why at Netflix, I would never do focus groups in the San Francisco Bay Area. In Silicon Valley, I'd go to Memphis, Tennessee, or to Providence, Rhode Island. And really try to understand, how normal folks were approaching this. And if you're trying to create a simple service, you have to say no to this kind of stuff. My guess is, yet again, it'll be a 5%er. And I'll tell you some more reasons in a minute. But if you can't get more than 5% usage, if there's no delight, then you don't have a shot at creating hard to copy advantage or that margin, either by people raving about it and convincing more people to join, or improving retention. And the key idea here is Netflix, it's building this idea of movie enjoyment made easy. So I just want you to think about, and this is why Netflix existed, think about how hard it is to decide what movies you want to watch with your friends and when you want to watch it. So in my family, of course, we have 3 streams. And so Kristen and I, my wife, will watch a movie upstairs in our bedroom. And Brittany's down in the living room. She's our 22-year-old. And Kelsey, the 24-year-old's in another room. And this is why they give multiple streams. It's just really hard to agree on watching the same movie. And that's one of the reasons that this is stated about 5%. Okay, I've got a second case for you. Does that case surprise you, or the results surprise you, Mark?
Not really. I think I agree for all the same reasons. Is that it's just too not impactful, not delightful.
Yeah.
It's just everybody else is doing it. Doesn't mean you should do it, at least in that way.
Hey, are there any actors out there? People who are, if you're an actor, put in the chat. I'm going to need you in a couple of minutes. Okay, the second case, this is about custom playback speed. And so the idea is that this is on a mobile device, you're watching Stranger Things, and it's post-COVID, you're on the train, and it's a 45-minute episode, and you only have 40 minutes, you can speed it up a little bit. Or if you're listening in a language which isn't your first language, you might slow it down a little bit. And this is the notion of custom playback speed. And I want to give you a little bit of consumer insight. This is a very, very frequent customer request at Netflix. Folks are asking a lot for it. And it's really because they're used to doing this on YouTube and on podcasts. My daughter, who's in med school, she's listening to everything at 150% speed. Or I'll use Audible and I'll go at 120% when my books are being read aloud. I'm guessing, yeah, and I could see Vic talking about you to me. And this is all a big saving time. And I see the 2X are bust. So folks are asking for this. They're dying for it. And I guess my simple question, Vic, do you think this is worth testing? Is this an idea that you would test? Do you think it's got enough value to test it? Okay, I see the yeses. I see yeses. I saw the joke about the Irishman. I guess that was too slow for you, huh? Okay, so this is worth testing. And my question is there anything that folks out there are concerned about? what is controversial about this idea? Or put another way, who might think this is a really sucky idea? That's what I'm fishing for. You got it. The producers, the directors. This is their art form. Tim Duncan, are you out there? Maybe he's not. Mark, turn on your video, or actually, I can see my reader. Juven, George, you ready? I need your help. Unmute. So Netflix rolled this out in test in New Zealand on mobile devices, and they were hoping that nobody was watching. And guess what? They noticed. You ready, Juven? Can you do a dramatic reading of this juicy quote for us?
Sure. So Netflix, don't make me call every director and show creator on earth to fight you. I'll win.
Oh my God, they were pissed. Okay. And then I saw you come to life, Tim. You ready for the next one?
Ready. There is no way Netflix will move forward with this. That would mean they're taking control of others' art and destroying it.
Very good. You guys are excellent. We now know your second career for both of you. All right. So the studios are really freaking pissed about this, you know, where Netflix is destroying their art. And then I want you to think for a moment, what metrics would you use to evaluate whether this is a good or a bad idea? And because you're searching for delight, you want to see if it's used. So the metric I'm going to put out there for you is what % of customers use this feature at least twice a month. Now, I'm not doing just once because that might be an accident, but twice. And that's my measurement for usefulness or potential delight. And now I'm going to tell you 25% of the customers in tests use this idea. And so now I put to you, will this idea delight customers in hard to copy, margin enhancing ways? And the way to think about it is, on one hand, you're trying to delight your customers, but on the other hand, you depend on the studios and the content creators. This is the lifeblood of what you do, their original content. So what do? So I'm going to put it out there. Herschel, you had a good compromise. Herschel's suggestion was, what if you only did it for self-created content, for original content? You know, the problem with that idea is customers get used to it and they have to think that, you know, they don't care if it was Netflix created or studio created. If you think about Netflix, they're trying to make it the same simple experience no matter what's going on. Okay. Mukta is thinking it's not enough. Okay, Gwen, great idea. Gwen's saying launch on mobile only. And that was that exactly what I'm proposing here. So I'm staying away from doing on a big screen TV, because that, I think, will really piss off the creators. It's a great idea. And I can see Izge's point. It won't be margin enhancing if the studios pull out of the deals. Okay. Okay, Mark, can you turn on your video and tell us what you think about the results here?
So I'm pretty interested in the yeses, because I think the verbal people are no's, and I am as well. So that's fascinating, because I would be worried about the producers.
Yeah.
But personally, and again, this is personal information, I've only ever seen one person who ever used this feature on anything. It was my roommate who would always listen to Chinese super fast. It was amazing.
Well, I can tell from the chat that there's a lot of folks, I could see it, you know, 2X is everything. Anyways, and not, I'm guessing that Netflix members are really super interested in this. And frankly, I think the test results share the same thing. All right, so I see everybody here leaning forward a little bit, and that makes me a little bit happy, and I'll tell you why. In this case, Netflix chose to launch. So the feature is rolling out on the Android devices. It'll be a while before it shows up on our iOS devices, but they've announced it. You can, you know, go half as slow or 1.5 times faster. So this is coming, okay? And here are the things that I want you to learn from this. First, this is all about customer obsession. So in this life of delighting customers, you're always asking, how can I delight my customers? And frankly, it's not the question. You don't ask, how do I delight the studios? Okay, that's not part of what customer obsession is. And then I do think if you get 25% of your members using this, you have a shot at delighting them in these hard to copy margin enhancing ways. I think this, frankly, all the retention improvements over the last 20 years have been sort of tick by tick, 1/10 of a point by 1/10 of a point. You're sort of just grinding it out. And this is one of those ideas that I think will help go in the right direction. I think it's hard to copy. And I think the retentional improvements will make it good. And then the other thing, there's a concept in Netflix where everybody is tightly aligned. They understand the overall company strategy, and they are only loosely coupled. And I'll explain what that means. At Netflix, this is a product decision. The product team makes a decision about the product. The content team decides about the content. You know, should we launch Stranger Things or Ozark or American Me or whatever? And in this case, the content team doesn't weigh in on this decision. It's a product decision. If the content team were engaged with every product decision, that would be tightly coupled. Tightly coupled is bad. It slows down decision making. Just like when I was there, the content team didn't ask me whether they should spend 100 million on, you know, on House of Cards, for instance. Okay. And so this is really the job of tight alignments against a strategy, but only loose coupling. And then the other thing that's going on is this is about storytelling in the context of technology. Storytelling has changed with technologies for hundreds of years, thousands of years, millions of years. So initially there was black and white animation with no sound, and then there was sound, and folks were appalled, and there was color. And then there was black and white movies without, and then there was sound, and then there was color. People were up in arms about when Pixar came along and did this 3D generated art and animation, about the loss of the art form of traditional cell animation. And this has just been going on forever and ever. And this is one of the reasons that Netflix just leaned forward. They're going to be, you know, in their path to delight customers, they're going to occasionally piss off studios. And frankly, the studios still like Netflix because they're the ones spending $20 billion a year on the content. And frankly, they're a good partner. Netflix doesn't have rules. They don't tell you how long your TV episode should be. You don't have to worry about advertising fitting in. They're a good creative partner. All right, so I'm going to bring things home now for you. Just want to reiterate how I think about strategy. I'm sharing, there's a picture of a woman who's going out to discover, to explore, you know, the ocean, the great sea beyond. And I think about strategy as this route to continuing power in a significant market. It's this exploration, it's this discovery process. And you hope to have these hypotheses about how you'll delight customers in hard to copy margin enhancing ways. And that's how I think about what product strategy is. And these frameworks, I just shared 3 of them with you today. They enable you to bring some discipline to the chaotic process of invention. Without some discipline, the chaos sometimes goes in the wrong direction. And these tools help you to do really the hardest thing as a product leader, which is to communicate an inspired vision of the future. And that is the hardest job. So I want to leave you with one juicy quote. If you want to build a ship, don't drum up the people to gather wood, divide the work and give orders. Teach them to yearn for the vast and endless sea. This is from Antoine de Saint-Exupéry from Le Petit Prince. So with that, I will say thank you. If you know me, I'm not quite done. There's really just one more thing that I'd like to do in these stranger times. I'd love it if you'd help me with one thing. I often feel like I'm a street performer doing my best to breathe fire. This is my 80th presentation since March 12th. I'd love it. I'm passing the hat to you right now, but I'm not asking for money. I would just love your feedback. So this is going to be my 583rd career survey. This is how I've learned to do what I do. If you just hold up your phone as though you're taking a photo, the link from SurveyMonkey will pop up. You can click on that. It's a scale where 0 sucks and 10 is great. You can choose any number on that scale and how likely you would be to recommend this talk to a friend or a colleague. That's the question I'm asking. And Mark's dropping this link, the SurveyMonkey link into the chat if it's easier for you. And I'd also like you to think about one thing that you enjoyed about tonight's talk and one thing that a way that you think you could make it better. And this is my consumer science, if you will. And it's been incredibly helpful to me. So I'm just going to thank you in advance for doing this for me. This is the same QR code. So if you haven't used it yet, you have a second shot. But I created a little page on my baby website where I put the PDF of this presentation. I put a link to my How to Define Your Product Strategy series on Medium. I don't advertise on my site. There's nothing bad that will happen there. So this is all just stuff for you to be helpful. And with that, I'm going to leave you. This is my guilty pleasure, Tiger King. It's a little more embarrassing than some of the other ones I saw, but it's just an amazing story and it's crazy too. And with that, I'm almost done. I'm going to answer questions. Mark, I know that you wanted to make a couple of quick announcements before we do the QA. You want to hit us with it?
Sure. So just a reminder, guys, I put the link in the chat, but our next Product in Austin event is Hacking Your Product Leader Career, which is
really good, I've heard. It's really good.
It's really great. Yeah. So if you'd like this talk, definitely RSVP on that. I put the link in there, but you can also just search on meetup.com, Product Hire Job Club. And then join the Slack community. That link is already in chat. And you can join Austin events, and that'll let you know next time we have something. And we will have in-person events someday, probably.
Someday, we can dream.
And we'll do Q&A now, but just so you know, don't leave because we're going to do a breakout sessions with networking so you can meet each other.
That's great. Cool. Okay, well, I'm going to stop sharing, and I'm ready to answer questions. I'll let Mark moderate a little bit for me, but you can ask questions using Slido. If you look down, you can ask questions there. You can upvote questions. You can also use chat. Can you resend the Slido link to Arnav Singh?
Yeah, here, I'll just post it in the chat for everyone to see. Slido link. Okay, so I'm taking a look at some of these questions.
I'm glad you got it, Arnav. That's cool.
We have one from Brittany Adams, and she asks, what is your process for creating a 2 to 5 year product vision that's not too far-fetched, yet not too conservative?
Yeah, Brittany, are you still here? You want to say hi? And
Hi.
Yeah, go ahead.
I should correct it to say 5 to 10 year product vision
Good.
after your presentation. But this is something where as a product manager, I'm interested in, I feel like the line gets blurry between a PM creating a vision for her product and a product director or VP being responsible for a vision. So I would just love to hear a couple of the inputs that go into you creating yours at Netflix, and how you test for whether or not it's too safe or too crazy.
Yeah. Okay, great question. So I encourage people to build a product vision for the overall product organization. I don't worry about it if you're a product leader in one squad or pod, but so I'll just focus on creating a product vision for the whole company. I use that GLEE model. So just to reiterate, at Netflix, we were going to get big on DVDs, and then we were going to lead streaming. Timing was unknown, right? We really didn't know. And then the guess was once we were all digital, then we could go experiment, internationally. And honestly, we didn't really understand the power of original content till maybe 2010, just as we were going international, okay? So we didn't know all that stuff up front. The key thing is to have these hypotheses about what you might look like 3, 5, 10 years out, just to give yourself a moment of time to think long-term, because in the long term, anything is possible. Chegg. So I said we were going to get big on textbook rental. That was the first step. It took us a while to just find that one thing. And then the next step was obvious to me. After textbook rental, these big orange boxes going back and forth in the mail, we were going to lead in e-textbooks. That was step 2. And after leading in e-textbooks, then we were going to go into other student services, like helping them to find a job or a summer internship. Okay. But guess what? I was wrong. E-textbooks did not happen on the pace I was hoping for, because the publishers had no, they were making great money on the real textbook. So I realized, oh my God, we're not going to get to e-textbooks. So it was just a hypothesis that was failed. But at that point, I knew that we had to get out of the paper textbook business into some sort of digital business. And so we actually bought 6 companies. It was a wild story. And one of them worked out. And that was the creation of our homework help business, this thing called Chegg Study. So the revised product vision was get big on textbooks, lead homework help, and then expand further. And this is still 5 or 10 years into these other student services, okay? So I just want to reinforce, these are hypotheses, but you're always encouraging the organization to think big and to think long-term. And that's a hard job for a product leader to do. And then, like for instance, I had a personalization product leader in the personalization swim lane. I didn't expect Todd to have a personalization vision, right? I did expect him to have a strategy for personalization, which he did, okay? All of this stuff is articulated in that series that I wrote, How to Define Your Product Strategy. And there's one chapter, it's only like 3 minutes, called the GLEE model. So, and then I actually did a case study on Chegg. And if you can't tell, I'm very quick to admit, what I got right and what I got wrong, which is all part of it. Thanks, Brittany.
Thank you.
Here's another question from Doran from chat. And he says,
Is Doran here?
Yes,
Doran.
I am.
Hi, Doran. How are you? What's your question, Doran?
Yes, so I know that, things like this, being good at making good product decisions takes time, but someone that is going into the industry, what's a good way to build that muscle really quick, in your opinion?
Yeah, the first thing is read a lot.
Which I already do.
Yeah. Go to meetups, talk to people, learn from their mistakes and failures, build your community of peers, all of those things. Like I teach a lot through cases, right? I was trying to pass on some of my learnings through cases. But you got it right, Doran, which is, okay, here's a good one. Early in your career, you're not actually responsible for everything, okay? But I'm always asking myself, okay, if I were the boss, what would I do? Okay. So I'm kind of role playing it. At some point in my career, the boss would ask me, what would you do? And I would like blubber, blah, 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 I don't know. And one of my pals, this was Electronic Arts, his name is Jordy. He said, Gib, he just wants to know what you think, right? And then he trained me. He said, if you don't know, ask him questions until you have enough data to form your own opinion. And then you can engage in the conversation. And by the way, you don't have to be right either. Which frankly, in these cases, the same thing I'm trying to encourage folks to do. Ask questions, come to your own opinion, and then engage in the conversation, engage in the debate. And that's amazing training for making these decisions on your own later. I wrote an article on Medium, which is called 10 Habits for Making Wicked Hard Decisions, Doran, and you'll like it, okay?
Okay, I'll look it up. Thank you.
How many years into your career are you, Doran?
So I have over a decade experience as a software engineer, and I recently became a product owner. Yeah. Ultimately, I want to become a product manager, so yeah.
Okay, well, ping me because I want to invite you to a very special event. I've been looking for Black and Latinx woman leaders. So I'm gbiddle616@gmail.com. But I have a neat event that you'll love to attend. Anyways, thanks for your question today, Doran.
Thank you.
Okay, next question. This is actually good because I was wondering the same thing. How do you, this is from Anonymous, so we don't know who this is.
Damn you, Anonymous.
They're too scared, but I would have had the same question. How do you assess how hard to copy something is? Because like speed up and speed down, like I thought, is that hard to copy really?
Yeah, okay, so let me just tell you the genesis of this thinking. Early on at Netflix, HB Mock was a product manager. He worked for me. He focused on this non-member page. That's the place where you go and it says, click here, give your credit card, your email, join for a 1 month free trial. That's the non-member page. And he had this insight. He basically put a happy family on the couch on the non-member page. And it actually got more people to click, engage. It was all good. And I said, that's great, HB. So there's nothing wrong with doing that, except I'd love you to do stuff like that. That's also hard to copy, because within a month, Blockbuster's going to put a freaking happy family on the couch, which is exactly what they did. Okay. So I'm not saying, you can and you should do the delightful things, but the hard to copy things have even more value. Okay. And then assessment, I mean, some basics, like most of the work that engineers do is pretty hard to copy. Okay. And frankly, hard to copy work is often hard to do, but you're trying to build long-term advantage. So some of the magic ones are a network effect. Like Facebook has this amazing network effect, right? Brand, as a product leader, all you can do is build a great product, and over time the brand will grow in value, and you have to care about the positioning. But one of the articles in that series, there's 8 hard to copy things, and it's all listed there. But I just, your job is to delight customers, but try to give a little bit of extra emphasis to the things that you do that are also hard to copy. That's the main learning. I mean, that was all the difference between the first half of my career, where I had, sold a company for $4 billion, and then a year later it was worth 3.8. That was bad. But then with Netflix and Chegg, both of those have worked out really well, just because of more focus on doing these things that are also hard to copy.
Okay, I'm looking for more questions.
Dorian, my email is gbittle616@gmail.com. I'm also the only Gibson Biddle, Gibson, like the guitar, Biddle, on LinkedIn. So I'm really easy to find.
Okay, sounds good.
Okay.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Oh, trying to find a good question.
Oh, they're all good questions, Mark.
Yeah. I'm trying to find one that wasn't like already answered, because there were like a lot of them were wrong. How about, let me look over on the chat. So here we go. Matthew Chadwell has a question on chat saying, regarding the alternative stories.
Wait, Matthew, are you here? Yeah. Where are you? There he is. Matthew, what's your question?
Basically, I'm interested in user research. So that's a big focus of mine. I'm actually just a QA guy, software testing. But the thing is, with like looking at the past behaviors of people, and also like future and forward looking, how do you juggle those two? Because I was thinking about the alternative stories with the different shows.
Yeah.
But looking at how their interest in the past with like reading books with different alternative endings, like do you look past to see if there was a huge interest there, and then mix out with some forward looking to see if there, maybe some new interest?
Yeah, it's really hard to do. It's a great question, Matthew. So the first thing, you spend a lot of time talking to customers. And for me, I call this consumer science, is basically forming a hypothesis and then testing it, looking at the results, and then deciding what to do. But you have 4 sources of data. You have qualitative, that's like focus groups. You could ask them. I did a survey with you just 10 minutes ago, NPS survey. You can dig in the dirt and look at the data and see what's happening or not. And then the big dog is A/B testing. So for instance, in the world of interactive stories, it's actually Todd Yellen who started the kid experimentation. That's easier to do than the adult stuff. The Bandersnatch is much harder. The key thing is he's got a proxy metric. The proxy metric that he has is the percentage of Netflix members that spend at least 1 hour with interactive content in the course of a month. And today, that's probably 1%. So the big question is, in the next 5 to 10 years, can he drive that to 10 or 15%? That's the big question. he was purposeful. He started with kids first because he thought it would be easier, and I think that's true. And then it took him a while to talk Black Mirror peeps into the experiment, but they loved it. And so now there's a point where there's other storytellers that are interested in doing the same stuff. If they pull this off, I mean, think about what Netflix is doing. They're saying we're not actually competing with Disney or Disney Plus or Hulu. We're actually competing for your attention, for your screen time. You know, so people are going to use Fortnite, right? Or they're going to use Facebook or Slack. And so they're competing for your time. They talk about winning those magic moments. And their theory is that they can compete for your time more effectively if they make it a little bit more fun, a little bit more engaging. And that's what the interactive stories are about. And they don't know the answer either. But they'll keep investing as long as that proxy metric, the percentage of members that watch at least an hour in a month, you know, keeps going up and to the right.
So very experimental. Okay.
Yeah, very experimental. I mean, this is so hard to do, right? You know, guessing consumer behavior. Like most of the results of A/B tests, nothing, right? You don't even change their behavior. It's like they didn't even notice it, right? Which is why it's hard. Thanks, Matthew.
Cool. We have a question from Alan Hahn. Alan, you here?
Yep, I'm here.
Hi, Alan. What
Hey,
town are you
how's it
in?
going? Here in Austin.
Cool.
So my question is, like, the pandemic has obviously changed the world that we live in. What opportunities excite you about, like, just kind of that will come out of this pandemic?
Yeah, I mean, Alan, like, so my focus before March 12th was talks, workshops, and executive events in person. And I took like 2 weeks off and sort of thought, okay, I'm a one-person company. Like, what am I going to do? And I'll tell you the things that were exciting for me. My plan was to do 80 talks this year or events or whatever. And I said, no, I'm going to have to do 120, okay? Because I'm going to have to do 80 free things in order to get the 40 paid things, okay? The free things are sort of my top of funnel. So it was actually really cool how much stuff I could do and how quickly I could experiment. I could do 2 or 3 talks in a day, where before I did maybe 2 talks a week because I had to travel. I had to go to Zurich or whatever else. And then you can see, what I learned, it's all about engagement. That's why I use Slido. That's why, I'm trying hard to see everybody and use chat, et cetera. And I'm really excited because my Net Promoter Score is now at the same as it would be in person, okay? And that's been really cool. So the big challenge for me, Alan, is how do you build community? How do you connect people in these virtual settings? And that's what I've been, experimenting with. I've been doing tons of work in virtual breakout rooms. And then you guys have probably seen this. It used to be very awkward to approach somebody in a crowded room, but some of these platforms are instantly putting 2 people in the same room. Like all that awkwardness is gone. That's pretty cool, right? I've actually made some friends virtually in the last 6 months, which is kind of amazing, right? I've never been in the same place at the same time. So you asked me what excites me. It's the opportunity to connect people together using these tools without traveling. And now it's, the other thing about that's cool for me is yesterday I was in Armenia, and the day before I was in Nigeria, okay? My goal before all this was to be more worldly. I'm much more worldly. I know what CDT time is right now, right? It's 10 of 7 CDT in Austin, right? I had no freaking clue before this virtual world. Anyways, it's just been kind of fun. Mark mentioned it. We do this Product Leader Summit. And Mark knew this. It's not about the content. It's about these 120 people that you have an opportunity to connect with in non-goofy ways. And our NPS for that event was 82, right? I mean, 70 is world-class. 80 is dance on rooftops. So we've just been figuring out ways to connect product leaders with each other. I don't know. So what's been the most exciting? I know it's a weird thing. I mean, it sucks, right, Alan? But what's been the most exciting thing for you?
So I'm a product manager and I work for a company that sells point of sale systems, specifically for sports and entertainment. And that industry has historically been like kind of lagging behind in technology. But the pandemic has actually forced them to think into the future. How do you do low touch, right? So how do you push things like mobile ordering? I shouldn't have to wait 30 minutes in line at a concession stand to pay for an overpriced beer and miss out on a football game. I should be able to order that from my phone, go pick it up and go enjoy the game, right? So I think things like the small things like that kind of excite me of like, once you've gotten to that world, we're never coming back to waiting in line. It makes no sense. So
and you just said the coolest thing. The coolest thing is it's really hard to create change, and the pandemic forced change.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah.
I mean, that's pretty cool. I'm very optimistic today, damn it, Alan. As long as I can ski this winter, I'll be okay. Okay, Mark, should we do one more?
Yeah, let's do one more.
Yeah.
So somebody to choose from now. Sorry, guys, I'm going to only choose one. But this is more of a strategy question, about the future of Netflix. So Zachary Rolke, you there?
Yep. Hey, I'm here.
Hello, Zachary.
Hey, so my question is kind of in comparison to Amazon, and one thing that you mentioned kind of about the culture. One thing that excites a lot of people about the culture of Amazon is similar to the culture of Netflix. Is there's lots of places to experiment, and kind of Amazon has taken their experiments to different industries with with advertisement, with B2B marketplaces, and a few others. Do you see Netflix kind of expanding into other industries similar to the way Amazon has, or of the kind of coming about are kind of just to strengthen the platform effect of Netflix?
Yeah, it's a great question. So Netflix, it's sort of, remember this phrase, movie enjoyment made easy. The culture is pretty strong on keeping things simple and having maniacal focus. So my short answer is Netflix will continue on the vector that it's on, which is to entertain people. Obviously big and original content today. I gave you one of the possible directions, interactive stories, but I don't think they're going to buy theaters. I don't think they're going to try to reinvent theaters. That's like a bridge to the past for them. I don't think they're going to go into theme parks, right? I mean, Disney has shown possible directions. Their theory is they only have 200 million members today. Only have 200 million members. Which is to say that 10 years from now they'll have 2 billion members. Like there's huge opportunity in doing what they're doing today. So that would be my guess. And you're correct that Amazon, I mean, Amazon's an amazing company, but they end up building tools for themselves, and then they realize, these are tools that other companies would appreciate, like AWS services. That's not how Netflix rolls. So, and I have no idea, why. But Netflix is focus, and Amazon's much more open to these alternate directions. But there are always tools that they built for themselves that they knew had value that they created for other folks. And whereas Netflix has always been maniacally focused on you, the consumer. Okay, Mark, should we do it? You're muted. Hey, Mark, you're muted.
Oh my gosh.
It was amazing though.
Yeah. So everyone, we're going to send out everyone to breakout rooms and, network until you're done and you can leave. But for tonight, thank you, Gibson, for just, having a great talk. I'm sure everybody really appreciate it. I put the links in chat, so click those or copy those while you still have chat. And it'll be on YouTube. Actually, when we're done, it'll probably be converted on YouTube and be available for you. Have a great night, everyone. Sending out to breakout rooms.
Thanks, Mark.
Yep. There we
Thank
go.
you.
I think everybody's going right now. Going. Going. It's my first time actually using breakout rooms. Is everybody in your rooms? We got 5 people still here. Hey Sam, how you doing?